really believe that a lot of 2015 will have to do with human interaction, a lot of thought as to where the data is going, or where the content is going, and I think that has to do a lot with content creation. So going into the presentation, first start as always with those few links and talk about the source of the info. This time around, I'm getting it primarily from Forrester, Internet Live Stats, eMarketer, IBIS World, and Think with Google. And anytime you see the WordPress symbol, that means you can access it on through that link. Moving forward on an overview, so this time around, I guess I need to clarify because there's a lot of different types of information that might seem confusing. Say if you're a small business owner thinking, well, is this marketing for me? Or if you're a startup founder thinking, is this marketing for me? Or if you're another individual from a medium enterprise thinking, can I do that? Well, I will try to clarify as best I can, but primarily the information will be geared towards these three sectors, if you will, that I'm most familiar with, and that's B2B and small businesses, so SMEs, as well as content for digital marketers. And I think content for digital marketers can apply to publishers as well, individuals who disseminate and syndicate content. So others who can tangentially benefit, but not directly, I don't think, because I'm not talking specifically about e-commerce and entrepreneurship and things of that nature. So moving right along, what is covered? There is a heck of a lot of information that came out in 2014, right? So it is impossible to cover it all. In the meetup, I mentioned SEO and PPC, but I'm going to be kind of glossing over those for the most part because I think there are more unknowns in search and in social media and what's happening with it, and in content marketing in 2014 going into 2015. So we'll discuss those a whole lot more, and here is the sort of presentation flow. First, I'll talk 2014, then move into 2015, then strategy, and finally, overview and resources. So going into 2014, the two biggest items that I thought 2014 offered or had that was different from any other time is primarily the growth within a lot of different digital marketing sectors and the extent to which the audiences and the customers started to engage with digital marketing from different devices, locations, in different contexts, which caused a lot of marketers to start to think differently about their sort of straight line approach to targeting audiences. So first, talk about some of the growth stats first talking about growth in internet. And this is just to kind of contextualize all the other bits of info that's going to come in a second. But if you see in 2014, the internet is growing, if you will. There are many more web pages being created, many more blogs, many more custom shopping carts, and many e-commerce sites and so forth. And because of that, it's becoming very crowded. And that's a huge context for this presentation, is that there's a lot of noise. It's been that way for, it's been growing and progressively becoming that way for the last decade, but it's really hit, I think, a tipping point in 2014. Because, if you look at the number of websites, well, there was the internet users in the world. Okay, they're growing, but the websites. So if you look at these two, you think, well, there's more internet users, but there are an equal amount of websites in 2014. Well, that's primarily because the content that was being produced, and a lot of the different things that were coming out at scale had to be kind of moved back because it's just too much for consumers to handle. They can only handle so much information. We can only handle so much information. And so growth in the internet, as well as in search. Those last stats were from internetlivestats.com. These are from eMarketer. If you consider search engine users, the growth has started to decline as of 2014, but the numbers will remain fairly consistent. And so some people talk about search engines losing a bit of value, but the user base will still be there, even though growth isn't going to continue. So, and then social media, it's really a huge topic because prior to 2014, it was really an unknown thought as to whether social media was going to be able to effectively advertise. And then with the advent of Atlas and the advent of different partnerships with social media companies, they started to generate a lot of social network ad revenues. Consider Pinterest and so forth. And so you see growth there as well as in the number of users. So continuing on in that same vein, in that same channel of thought, growth also spilled over into content marketing. And so I put those few items there in the email, programmatic, blogging, inbound, video, because prior to 2014 and even in 2014, it was a little bit, how do you say, uncertain as to what people actually meant when they said content marketing. It could be anything and everything. A lot of people had it on their resume but didn't really have a specific focus. But again, in the context of too much information coming out, information beyond overload, information breakdown, it's shown that content marketing has taken on a new light, and there are a lot of marketers who are really focusing on it, and they're not focusing on it as content marketers per se, but they are focusing on it as a larger scope of integrated marketing. So if you consider all of those stats, then we can go into some of the updates, right? So the backstory was growth. Okay, so now we think about for search engines, well, what were some of the more important stories, but not necessarily all the more important stories. These are just a few, and I'm putting a small tag next to each of those because these are just a few things that if you didn't know, you should just go back and look and research, because Google My Business, obviously for a lot of small businesses, is very important, and it's a must for small business owners and any business for that matter. Mobile ranking it just took the world by storm. Mobile optimization and so forth. And large news like Facebook splitting with Bing. They're no longer hosting the Bing search results. And you got to think about what does that do for the search engine industry. And that's primarily for digital marketers. That's why that symbol and that icon is there. And then, we're going to go down that list, but then some people might be wondering about the end Google, what Google did throughout the year. And for that very purpose, I'm not going to go through it right now, but there's this small thing that I put on my blog. You can see it here. It's a small 3D interactive type graph that you can actually go through and see a bit more about the updates and when they occurred and what happened. So it's a timeline either there in 3D, or you can just keep it 2D like that. So I'll leave that to you to actually go and check out if you are so inclined. So those are some SERP updates. This is only half an hour, so I can't do an exhaustive review of that. But social, let's go on. Let's move on to social. Consider in 2013, there was 86% of marketing managers said that they wanted to use a form of social within their campaigns. And in 2014, according to eMarketer, that number increased to 92% of respondents saying they're using social. So the popularity of social is growing. And then, you had a lot of very unique campaigns. They may not have been new companies, but there were unique ways in which these companies' products were used that really made social a large topic of conversation, especially within large enterprises. Things like Vine, the way Snapchat uses it, and the way Pinterest is also used by a lot of people today. So I think it's only fair if I say, okay, social is such a like crowded area that I can do a bit of dividing here, a bit of categorization. Just say what was important according to eMarketer for these three respective categories. First, for digital marketers, eMarketer said that Google Plus became really important, and so that's surprising given the fact that their lead of development left in this year and started Google that, bashing, saying that their platform was on the way out. Well, it had a sort of resurrection. Not to say that it's the most profitable platform yet, but digital marketers are using it nonetheless. And LinkedIn as well. It's really, really becoming a robust platform. If you haven't visited LinkedIn in a while as a digital marketer, or you'll see right now as a B2B professional, that's what that middle column is, you should definitely go check it out. There's a lot of great things, such as the Pulse app for your phone, or even the Connected app for your phone, which helps you to do small and seemingly insignificant little things that make a huge difference in your personal relationships that are managed online. So, and then we go on to small businesses, right? Google Plus, that is very important for small businesses because it's not necessarily a ranking factor, but it definitely is a factor for small businesses saying which platforms they use. And also because of the updates through Google, you definitely need Yelp. So another thing that, if you're a fan of Foursquare, you should know that in 2014, Foursquare suffered a whole lot of setbacks. They had reported revenue growth, but you can see that they had a bit of a decline given their largest competitor, given the fact that the largest competitor being Yelp is now ranked atop Google's search algorithm. So they really declined in 2014. And then you take a look at some click. I'll breeze over these. How did click search, what's something to know about click search in social networks in 2014? Paid search. Google Plus brands. That's not new, but it's very developed now. So if you consider that Google Plus took on a new meaning in 2014, it only follows that Google Plus brands, which is their advertising platform for brands through Google Plus to start conversations in your ads. Then Pinterest ads. Pinterest ads is something that you can spend a long time discussing, but suffice it to say that they are going to be a very big topic of conversation in the coming year as well, because the whole year. So that's social. Now I think this is where I talk a bit more about content marketing. So that bottom symbol stands for SaaS. There was a big year for SaaS given the rise of content marketing, and you have companies like Contently that have been around for a while, HubSpot, Scribe, and there are many more content focused companies that caused there to be a big conversation about content marketing and what it really was. And that brought together this sort of connection and made clear the nexus of content marketing and social marketing. And that's primarily because they're not two different segments, they're not two different processes, they're part of the same. But prior to that, they were kind of treated as different processes. You would get a blog post written, or you would get a piece of material or content created, but it would go to different locations that weren't a part of your larger or other marketing campaigns, such as social marketing. So you saw growth in social marketing at 92%, and you also see the same thing according to the same source for content marketing. That's emarketer.com saying that 93% of respondents, the marketing managers, said that they engage in some form of content marketing. Well, so these two worlds connecting and becoming a fairly normal connection in 2014 made for better content, really. And that's going to be the huge story next year, and that's what we'll get into a little bit more. But I mean, if you take a look at some of the things that larger companies were doing in 2014, such as some of the ways Evernote was using content marketing, the ways that GE was using it, LL Bean, Taco Bell, even Caterpillar, which is an industrial machine manufacturer, and they were using Content Marketer to engage their customers, to bring a very good level of content to their customers, and in a way that increased their return. So it kind of went through a lot of the noise and got straight down to what their audiences wanted to hear. And I think it'll become much more feasible for smaller and medium-sized businesses to do a lot of content marketing and to do a lot of integrated marketing in 2015, given its popularity with larger businesses. So you consider better content. Well, think about, well, what did people do in 2014? What was the most popular type of content that was created? According to eMarketer, a continued focus will remain on emails and email newsletters, but not just email newsletters. It's email newsletters that have a very lively personality, that use a connection between the audiences that the companies locate and the customers that they get to know and locate, and the material that they then create. And so email newsletters, right, because it kind of subsumes the rest of these, or it could be separate, but in any case, then images, short form content, presentations, blog posts, and so forth. So moving right along in the interest of time. So now it's time to talk about like 2015, and I thought, like, okay, this image is very good because a friend sent it to me, and he basically said that this is what a lot of these predictions kind of amount to in the end. And so I want to preface the prediction, or the 2015 part, with, this is kind of just what I'm thinking in light of what a person heard a crowd say that the social media and digital marketing atmosphere is doing. Like, it's just all these different channels that are being heard, right? And so, I mean, take it for what it's worth, but here goes the sort of dive into what I think 2015 has to offer. And I intentionally made it boring and bland in these colors because I think, well, I need to get past this part, because this is a very, how do I say, it's a part that doesn't really apply to everybody, but take it for what it's worth, like I said. So trends, okay, this is what is being predicted by, well, not necessarily a trend, but it's what's being predicted by eMarketer. And this is what a lot of marketers are saying they're going to focus on in 2015. And so I divided these into categories. So I thought there are certain things that you got to have in 2015 because it's certain to be a really important part of anybody's marketing campaign. And those are responsive devices, right? Nothing new, but here is sort of a bit of the reasoning behind, right? And you can go to thinkwithgoogle.com to actually see that it's not nearly, it's not even close to being a linear process anymore. It's very involved. And then talking about analytics to improve ROI. So just like the differentiation needs to be made between just producing content and having rich strategic content to go into content marketing, I think there also needs to be a difference recognized between just mere analytics and analytics to improve ROI. So there's a lot of new analytics that are starting to be developed, and I think it's worth it to actually know about these different forms because they will determine a lot of how much return you get from your campaigns. And so, like, here's a statistic to give you a little bit of an impetus to actually take a look at some of these tactics and techniques for data mining and stats. According to 2014 Q3 Digital Marketing Report by RKG, you can see that the click-through rate was up 18% for tracked mobile campaigns because it's a matter of saying you're going to not only implement the mobile campaign, but also figure out how the customer journey is almost akin to the way that you do it, or that most digital marketers would perform it on a desktop, or most business owners would request of digital marketers for desktop. So delivering relevant experiences. All right, so now these are things that you should know. Not necessarily because they're going to be game changers, but if you consider what they will be and the implications that they hold for industries through 2016, it's really important to actually get a grip on what programmatic actually means, because it's, again, one of those terms that people, if they know it, don't know exactly what it means. I'm not going to attempt to explain it through a shorter presentation, but then we can move on to something called the Internet of Things. Internet of Things, as a lot of new forms of technology are being developed, they're going to start to be integrated with traditional business models, and you can find newer ways to profit off of an Internet of Things as it starts to become developed, and that's a item that you should know. Then in 2015, things that you should read up on are wearable technology, right, and mobile payments. These are things that if you have time, you can know about, but they're not going to be hitting a critical mass at any time soon, unless Apple or Samsung has something that very secret that nobody has heard of to this point. I think it's going to be a few years until these will become really effective for, in large part, for digital marketing purposes. So, and then things that, I don't know if anybody's still paying attention a lot to some of these items, but if you say desktop, I don't mean desktop, you should ignore everything that has to do with a desktop optimization, but rather, I mean, put your focus all in mobile if you can, because there's a lot to learn about mobile. There's a lot that people still don't know, and if anything, desktop should take a backseat to the actual mobile learning and mobile optimization. QR codes, obviously, and social TV. I know that somebody was talking to me about social TV, so I decided to put that in. And then privacy deterrence. right? There's a lot of talk still. I work within a small and medium-sized business community, and I hear a lot of talk about privacy still kind of floating around, and so that's a deterrent. If it's a deterrent in your social media efforts, don't let it be, because there are no concerns within the industry. So then you think about strategy. And so the thing about strategy is it's like the content, sorry, not the content portion, it's like the prediction portion. So if you take strategy and you say, well, a lot of people really want an answer just like they want a prediction, but it's really a matter of finding out what a process is and then discovering answers from there. So if there's anything that I've learned from working with a lot of different small businesses in 2014, it's you definitely have to have a good portion of thought put into your social media efforts and your PPC efforts and your SEO efforts concerning your business, so that they can meet your business's needs, right? If you're going to, whether you're a small business, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're a medium-sized business, B2B, B2C, whatever, you definitely should have a good vision in place as to how you want to proceed in developing your digital experience. For example, if you say that you want to have a greater presence on LinkedIn, well, which specific communities are you going to try to develop a presence within? Are you going to try to become an influencer within some of those specific communities in LinkedIn? And then if you are, say if you're in a small, maybe a digital marketing firm or a publishing firm, well, individuals within your small firm, they definitely have to be in with publishing on a regular basis, and they have to be in on the continual plan that you're going to play out in order to realize some goals. And so I know that these are very, and then the technology, right? You have to create the digital experience, the architecture, in order to understand like how people are going to interact with the things that you put in place, such as your website, your mobile website, your app that you develop. Right? It's a lot of businesses that I see, they're satisfied just to have an app, but that's not enough. You need to focus on user experience. They're satisfied just to have a mobile website. Well, you know, it's not the for some people it's the cost, but for you, if you're thinking about getting return on investment from your marketing, your digital marketing, you should definitely consider the user experience of the technology that you're putting in place, because all of these 4 items in tangent will help you to receive something from your marketing. I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day about how many people I know within the small SME sector, and some people even within the startup sector who when we talk to them and we talk to them about what metrics and what KPIs and what things they're tracking, what their goals are, and what specific strategies they have concerning their digital marketing, they don't really know, or they're not really clear. And so it's, you know, there's a lot of noise there. I know that there's a lot of options. There's a lot of things that distract, and people are busy, but it's going to become easier to lose your money in 2015. Let's just say that, because there's way more content out there. There are going to be a lot of